Hello, I'm Tricia from Tricia's Cards and Crafts, and today I'm making a video which is a little bit different from my normal ones. I've been asked for some instructions on a post that I made on Facebook, and it was started with this card. The actual comments were from it's back to front, but don't worry about that too much. And what it is, this little card is a bit of an interactive card, and we can change, it's difficult to do back to front, you can change which dress she likes to wear, and this is where this started, where the video came from. So this is the card that started it all off, but actually I first started making this card and I had an idea that I thought, if you have a look, this little cute little thing is standing up against a wall. So I thought, this is the Peekaboo Farm stamp set, and I thought it would be nice to use this with the Give It a Whirl dies, and I created this one so that you can change. I can't do this back to front. Let's have a look, see if I can work out how to, there we go. You can change the animals around, so it's not easy to do it from the back. There we go. So I've got 3 little animals, and each of them are coming to have a look over the wall and say hello. So this is the card that started it off, and I thought that's good, but then I thought about maybe making it with the Hey Girlfriend stamp set, which has retired, I'm afraid. It's not long retired, so you might be able to get it. Somebody might have a set if you wanted one. Just keep your eyes out or ask around. If you've got one in your stash, even better. So this is the one I thought it'd be nice to see the girls changing their dresses, because I've got 2 daughters and they're always changing their minds about what they want to wear. So I thought it would be nice to have a set where they would change their dresses. Now for this one I've used some designer series papers for their dresses. You could just colour them in, but I thought it would be fun to use different designer series papers. You don't need a lot of paper to do the little dresses, because they're so small. They only take a little scrap of paper, so I thought that would be a good idea. So I'm going to try and make this card with you or for you today and show you how I made it. I'm going to use the Hey Girlfriend stamp set again. So this is the stamp set, and for a change I won't use this one, I'll use this image here today. And I've used the Give It a Whirl die set here. I'm not using this die only because I'm going to use it as to mark out where I need to put this, but when you're using an A6 card, no, yeah, A6 card, it does fit, but it doesn't give you a lot of room on the sides, so that you can have a little bit more of a margin. You do need it to be quite wide, because otherwise, as I found, your wheel will show over this side as well. So you have to be careful where you place it, but it will go in the middle for that. So I didn't use the actual die to cut the top layer out, also because when you do cut it, it leaves the hole in the middle, which is great, so you can use that for marking where you want to put your brad. But the other thing is as well, it does leave a little indentation, so I didn't use that. When I cut the shape out, the aperture, I stamped the image first and then I cut the aperture out afterwards. And it does leave, if you use the aperture, that's the aperture that you use, it has got a little sort of circular bit on the top, because you need you need to know where the circle lines up, but it does leave a little mark on there. But because you're colouring it in and it doesn't show that much, so you're okay. It's not too bad. So that's that one. This one I made is a 6x6 card, and because it's square you can't put the image in the center of the card, because then you wouldn't be able to get to your circle. You'd have to sort of cut it off further in, so it has to be slightly over to one side so that you can get to the mechanical part of it to be able to turn it round. Okay. I'll explain a bit more when you come to actually stick the top layer down. You do need to be careful where you want to put dimensionals on it to just get it above the actual image so that it'll turn around easier, but you have to be careful where you put your dimensionals so that you don't trap any of the circle into it as well. So there's a few different things that you need to consider when you're making the card, but this is the card I'll show you how to make today. Right, I'll just turn the camera around so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Right, hello. Now, this is the card originally, and this is the piece that I cut out from here. So as you can see, what I did, I stamped this image onto this front piece first, and then I cut this out afterwards, and then I used this on the circle piece to underneath. I stamped them again. Now if I'd stamped them, I'll explain when I go wrong. There's no point doing it now. It'll make more sense when I actually get to it. Right, so this is the card I've already made, and this is what I'm using for the card that I'll make with you now. So I've got an A6 card and envelope, card blank. So here's the card blank. Let's just use my bone folder to, there we go. So that's my card and envelope. I've cut a piece of DSP, use it that way around, and this is from the hand penned DSP set. I've cut this. Now the A6 cards, I think if you're doing it in America you use an A2. The measurements are slightly different, which is why I'm not using this. If you're in America you can use one of these to make your next layer a bit smaller. Okay, so but it doesn't quite work. I'll explain why now for our cards in the UK. So I've cut this. It's just about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card blank. So this is 4 inches across by 5 3/4. And then I cut another piece of white card, basic white, and this one is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. So that's my top layer. I've also got a scrap of card which is just over, well, 3 7/8 should be, well, it's just over 4 that way, but it doesn't really matter so long as it fits your circle onto. Okay, that's what that one's for. And then I've got another piece, again that one is about 2 by 2 1/2. That again, this doesn't matter, this is for my sentiment. I didn't put a raised sentiment on this one, but I thought I will on the card that I'm going to make for you now. Okay, so those are all the pieces that you need. I don't think there's anything else. If you wanted to, there are some little, I don't know whether I've got them out, they might be in the packet. Here we go. Here's the die set. There are some, I don't know whether I took them out. Yes, there's some little arrows that you can use, which I used on my animal card. That is a die cut one, so you can actually see that that's done. With this one I just drew the arrow on because they're quite fiddly and I thought it's just as easy to draw it, and it doesn't make much difference when you're actually using it. So that's, I haven't used those, but you can. And if I did that, I used some black, just a tiny little scrap of black card to do the arrows with if you wanted to do that. Right, so the first thing we can put, well, no, you can't actually stick anything on. You can't even stick this one on yet. So you need to wait for that. Yeah, that's okay. So what I did with this one, I put this over the top, and I wanted, if you can see, our cards are slightly longer and yours are slightly wider than the American ones. Are slightly wider and slightly shorter than our cards are, the A6 cards. So with this template, I've actually, this card, the die is about the same size as the piece of card that I've cut, but I wanted it a little bit longer so that it would actually have the right sort of frame on my background layer. So what I've done, I've pulled it down as far as I can towards the bottom of the die, and then I lined that up so that when I put my circle over the top, there we go, it doesn't come to the edge of my card, because I don't want it to be on the edge of my card, because otherwise it'll show, and I want it to be further over this side if possible anyway, so that you can get the finger marks there. What I did then, I lined up the holes. This one's come down a little bit more. There we go. I lined up the holes, and there we go, so that I know where it is going to be on my piece of white card. And then I just used a pencil and I drew around the inside of that aperture there. Okay, that is where, now I can take those away. Oh, the other thing I should have done is just use that while it was in position. So it would have been about there, I think. Let me just check. Bring it up a bit. About there. Just so that I know where to put my gap here. Now I could just draw that and then cut that out there. But what I've used to do that is I have a punch. You can use dies, but then it will leave a mark. But if you've got, this is a 1 3/8 inch punch, but it doesn't have to be this size. It could be a bigger punch, it could be smaller, just so that you've got that piece that you can cut out. Now I'm just going outside of the lines just to cut that off there. So that's my little finger hole, so that my circle will show underneath there. Okay, right, so the next thing I need to do is I will need to cut that out. But before I cut that out, so I know exactly where I want this to go, but first of all I need to stamp my whirl onto the card. Right, so I'm using some Memento Tuxedo black ink. Here we go. And as I said, I'm using a different image this time. Now I've got this so that I can see where I want to stamp, because I want her shoulders to be inside. Now this was much easier when I was using the Peekaboo Farm dies, because they are a photopolymer stamp and you can see where you're putting it. With these they're not, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to see, but I just about got her inside that frame. Okay, so I could have done it a little bit further up, or if you know what I mean, so the stamp was further up. But it's difficult when you can't see, but it does just fit inside that space there. So now I can go ahead and I can cut this out. Now I am going to move this down slightly, which will make a little bit of a difference to the finished card, but it's not going to make that much difference, so it'll be okay, don't worry. So that's what I'm going to cut out of that. This one I'm going to cut out onto here. So just going to use, I've got some, this is some post-it note, but it's like tape, so it's got the sticky all the way over it, and this came, I bought this in a shop ages ago. I'm not quite sure where you can get it from. You might be able to get it from Amazon, I'm not sure. Oops, that's moved. That's not good. I don't want it to move. I want it to be just where I put it. There we go. That should be okay. I might just, there we go. Right, let's just hope that stays where it's put. That's okay. So I'm just going to put these through my die cutting machine, and then I'll be back with you. Right, so here are the pieces that are die cut now. So I've got this one, which is the circle mechanism, and this one, which now has been cut out. It's a little bit unfortunate, I've cut a little bit of her face out, but don't worry too much because it'll be on the rest of the card anyway. So this is the piece that I've cut out. Okay, now this is going to fit onto the back of the DSP, but obviously you're not going to see the DSP, so that's what that will be like, because that's going to be underneath it. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use this. I know exactly where it's going to be because I've got my circle, and if you, I don't know whether you can actually see it, but there are some indentations where the arms were here, so you can see where you need to put your stamps. Okay, now what I've done, what I will do now first, is I'm going to line this up with the marks. It's difficult for me to see now with the light. There we go. So that is the first one, and I'm just going to draw. I can easily just pencil around where I want the window to be. So I can put this so that I'm hopefully not going to be able to see the indentation marks. I will as they go round, but it's not too much of a problem. And so the third one again will be there, and just put that there. So those are, ooh, that's not right. So let's just, that's one way of finding out you've got the right position for your dies. Just that better. Right, let's try that one again. Put that in the right place, so that's better. So I've got that marked up there, and let's try and draw that round this time. This way. Yeah, that'll do. That's okay. Might come down a little bit more with that one. That's okay. Right, just easier to find out. So I need when I'm stamping them, I don't want the top of the head to show. So what I did, I cut, I'll do it again. I've got it here somewhere. Oh, there it is. I've cut a piece of post-it. Now I've got a wider one as well as a thinner one. I cut a piece of this off, and I put this on, and then I just drew a line and cut out where the V shape was, so that I put it in the right place for where I'm going to stamp. And I don't necessarily want all of the legs showing. I will explain a bit more about this, but when I stamp in, when you have it so that it's turning around, you will see a little bit of the legs showing through, but I didn't want them coming right to the edge. So what I also did, and I've lost the piece of paper because I think it stuck to my foot, fell on the floor. So I just used a piece of this tape, whoops, stuck it onto there like that, and then again I used this to go on there, and I just drew around there, and I just cut that bit off, but again I'm going to do it, whoops, just a little bit above. It's not going to matter that much. It will matter a little bit if it's not straight, just in case, because I don't know where this skirt comes. So there we go. So that's going to be towards the bottom of that aperture there. So that will stop the bottom bits of her legs showing on the outside edge of the card. Okay, it won't completely, because I will need to use my black Stampin' Right marker, the narrow end, the fine line end, just to connect the legs once it's on the card. I will explain that in a second. So now we can stamp her onto the circles. So again, using the Memento black, I don't need to stamp the whole image because she's not going to show, or all of it's not going to show on here. So have this. I need, where do I need it to be? So the bottom of her face will come there-ish, but I do need to show all of her skirt, so let me just, got that right, just so the skirt shows inside. Whoa, I might need to get another one of these out. So let's just hope that didn't make it did make a double image, but it's okay. I think that I can live with that one. Because I'm going to stick something over the top of that, it's not going to matter too much. So then I'm going to reposition these again. And this bit as well is going to go down here. Stamp her up again. And it would be easier on a different stamping block probably. Not easy. There we go. Let's hope I got that right. The skirt is just, I think that's a bit further down. Anyway, let's try it. We'll see. I don't think that's going to be right. And then this one, there. Oops, don't want all the show stamping. There we go. We just see if I can get this one right. So I skirt. There we go. Let's hope that one's a bit better again. There we go. Right, so I'm going to have one that's slightly in the wrong position, but it doesn't matter too much. That'll be okay. Now the other thing we need are some pieces of designer series paper while we're doing the stamping, and I've just used the hand penned designer series paper. I've got, those are the different colours they've got in it: Basic Black, Blushing Bride, Cinnamon Cider, Daffodil Delight, Garden Green, Howland Heather, Mint Macaron, Misty Moonlight, Pale Papaya, Pool Party and Whisper White. I'm using 3 different pieces, and I'm going to be using not the hand pen side, not the side with the flowers on, apart from the backing sheet. I'm using the other side because I want some patterns rather than, so that's 1, that's 2, and then just make sure I've got the right piece because I cut the smaller piece off. Where did I put that? Oh, it's up there. So I've got the opposite side of that piece as well. Okay, so I only need a small piece of this, and all I need is I'm going to print off this little bit of her. So I just want her dress. I'm just going to move my piece of paper off, so I've got a piece to stamp off on. So I'm going to up this bit down here. It's a little bit darker, so I'm going to put her there like that. All I really need is this dress part, and then these two, I'm going to put this one on here, and this bit here, and this one I want to go, the stripes to go down. So here we go. So there we are. So all I need to do now is to cut these pieces out. So just bear with me and I'll be with you in a minute. Right, I'll just show you how I've cut the dresses out. Just because this one I didn't think about it, and when I stamped it, or when I chose to do this image, but I'll show you now what the slight problem is with this. If you use your paper snips, if you've got them, you do need something, well, having these nice sharp points really helps, especially cutting out something like this. I'm just going slightly inside the line, or at least cutting on the line if I can, and I'm moving the paper rather than the scissors when I'm cutting, so not trying to keep onto the line. It'll make it easier when you go to stick it on. So cut around. I get stuck every now and again. Here we go. So those are the arms. Don't worry too much if you do miss a couple of lines. It's not too big a deal. You can go back. You can always stamp it again. And just around the neck as well. Now this one, as I said, gives you a little bit of a challenge because you don't want these bits inside her arms because she's holding them in the centre. So if you cut up the one side, you can get inside to cut the space out. You could, if you've got nice sharp pointy scissors, you can probably use the points, but it's very fiddly to do it that way. And just, or if you've got a scalpel, you can use a scalpel to do it. But even so, it'd still be quite difficult to do. So this is how I've been doing it, just using the scissors to cut inside the inside space out. There we go. So I'm not worried too much that there's a little bit of the paper showing. I can go back and snip that off. Well, if I cut that little bit off there. There we go. Alright, so that's how I cut the dresses out. So I've got 3 dresses here now to be stuck onto my girls. So that's one. As I said, it doesn't matter too much about that one being sort of double stamped because you're not going to see that because that's going to be over the top. And 3. Now you can use whatever you want to stick them on with, but I've got some Tombow that I'll probably be using now. So let's see if I can, I think I might try a new one because most of mine are coming to the end of the row, the tube. I don't want to mess this up. So They either come out in big blobs or they come out as hardly anything at all. So here we go. So I've got my 3 dresses. The thing is, because even though I've cut these out, the arms part of it off, once it's stuck on, that's not going to make any difference. It's going to be fine. So hopefully this will come out in a second. Yes, here we go. Don't know if you can see this. It's quite nice and fine, so you can just put a little bit of a blob on the arms as well. You don't want too much glue on them because you don't want it oozing around to make the actual thing sticky. Just a little bit. Okay, and the third one. It's not easy to see on the video, I don't expect, because it's sort of going on white, more or less. So there we go. But I can see, if you've got a nice fine nozzle glue pen, or you could use a glue pen to do that with as well. That will be fine. So we'll put one on here. One on here. Whoops. There. And one on here. So I've got my 3 different coloured dresses on. When you stick your arms down. Oops, there we go. There we are. So now we just need to colour some little bits on here. Now I'm using blender pens, and for this one I'm going to use the dark petal pink for her skin tone. So I'm going to go over her hands. Now this isn't going to be quite right because it's on top of the dress, so it's going to come out a little bit darker than the rest of it, so that's fine. And then her face and neck, I'm just going to go a little bit above that just in case. So here's another one, so just above here. This is not going to show anyway, but you did need to, if you can see, if you'd left the heads on you would have had it going over onto the rest of it, so that's why you did need to mask that part off. I'm going to do the same thing with her hands. There. And you're not going to see much of her legs, but I will tidy this up afterwards. So we're going to just put this around you now. This is where she's a little bit, this one's a bit lower down than the rest of them. There we go. And her legs will be about there. Right, now, so we're nearly there. Not quite, but we're nearly there. So, because I also need to colour her in on here. Now this is where, so this one is going to show, she's going to look a bit odd because she can have 2 mouths, but never mind. It can't be helped. But the rest of them will be fine. See, so she'll just be like that there. Okay. And that one will be there. Okay, so this one's not too bad. Okay, she should be okay. I might need to use a black line just here to join her face up to there. Sometimes when you're stamping it doesn't always come out properly, so just use a bit more to go around here just so that I got that right. I'm going to use some Flirty Flamingo Light for the lips, and because I've got 2 sets of lips that one's showing a little bit there, I might just do a little bit there just in case. And now for here. Right, so I want some I'm going to do around the glasses with the dark. And don't worry, I will come back to that now. And this here. Now, I think I'll use some, which one is this one? No, I'm not going to use that one. What's this one? Bermuda Bay. What have I got that I can use? I think that one will be alright actually. I'm going to use some of this Bermuda Bay light for the shoes, just because it might will hopefully tone in with everything. It might be a bit darker, but that doesn't really matter if it's a bit darker than a dress, but it will also go with the other two colours as well. So that's the other thing. When I did the first one, I did a slightly different colour, and I'm going to use, I think I've got Pale Papaya Light for the bow. So I'm going to use in her hair. So there we go. So I don't know what colour to do her hair. I think I'll make it nice yellow. So I will use my Daffodil Delight, the light and the dark. So I'm going to colour it in. Oh, where did that come from? With the light first. There we go. And then I will put some low lights with the dark. So I'll just go around where the bow is. There we go. And I'll go back over then with the light. There we go. Now I'm going to use the, I think, if I can find it, light Pale Papaya to do inside her glasses, because I just thought that that will just show that the glasses are there. Okay, so that's my colouring in done. The other thing I will do before I do anything else is I'm going to make sure she's standing on something. So I'm using some Granny Apple Green blends, and I'm going to use this so that it looks like she's actually standing on something, because we don't want her floating in mid-air. And I think I'll use the other end just to tidy that up. I could always do a couple of little bits of grass, which won't necessarily show up that much, but there we go. So that's what she's standing on. And then I'm going to use my blending brush. Now I haven't got the Stampin' Up ones yet, and I'm using some Seaside Spray ink and my brush. And I'm just going to do above her head just a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting, so that she's not just on a white background. Okay, so that's what I did. I didn't do it properly the first time, because when I did it the first time I realised afterwards she looked a little bit white, the background looked a bit white, so I used the blending brush over the top once I put my you can see it in a second, once I used my dimensionals on the bottom, so then you could see it looks a little bit as if it's bruised. But there we go. So we've got all of these bits done now. The only other thing I wanted to do was the sentiment. So I've got "Hey girlfriend," so let's put that on. Now on the animal one I did put the sentiment in the cloud, which I thought actually looked quite good, and I could have done that again, but oops, perhaps I should have done. Let's turn it over and start again, and just make sure I've got the nothing on the top. Right, let's try again. So I'll do "Hey girlfriend." That's better. And now I'm going to use my mini trimmer to make sure the edges are straight. Well, actually, if I cut that bit off first, make sure that's straight. And then I can use that end. There we go. I want that there. And I want this to be about there. Make that one, make it a little bit narrow, I think. Get a little bit more off there. And a little bit more. So I'm going to place this on my 3/4 of an inch line so I can make sure it's lined up. So that is there, straight. And then I'm going to use a piece of, I might use this one, and I'm just going to cut an inch strip off here. I can line that up there. That will go behind. And I'm going to use my, nope, if I can find it, here it is, my banner, pick a banner, punch dies, so I've got the double ones. So I'm going to put this one in there, make sure it's lined up correctly, and just take the end off, and then do the same thing on the other side. No, make sure I use the right side. I nearly did that with the opposite end. So that's there. Get that lined up and cut that off. Oops. So I've got my banner there. Now I don't want this to be too long, so I need to cut this off. So I'm just going to cut that to about there, and then I'll do the same thing with this one. Push that through and stamp. No, didn't do it right. Let's see if I can get this right. No, oh well. And then this end, see if I can get this one a bit better. So line that up, cut it off. That's okay. And I will stick this on. Use some of my stamp and seal if I can actually get it out. Nothing ever wants to work when you want it to. There we go. Right, so don't want it to be sticky. So that's going to go on there. Now don't worry, I'm going to straighten this off just a little bit because it's not straight. So I want to line that up there. There we go, that's better. And line that up there. So I've now got my sentiment. Here we go. Right, sorry if this is taking quite a while, but it's quite an involved card. So this one will go up here. Okay, so let's try and put all of this together now. So we have my backing piece and my circle. Right, so I need to know where those, I should be able to use this piece again. So if I find out where my notch is on here, I should, if I put this in the right place, be able to work out where the circle is going to go, ish. So I put that there. I really need a sharper pencil than I've got here. Let me see if I've got a sharper one. That's worse. This one might work. Just want to go through the hole there. I think you can just see there's a hole there. Not a hole, a circle. So if we put this there, and I try and find that. I can't, oh there it is. There. That should be where, if I try and hold that in position a second, where that goes. So there we go. So that should be where my, no it's not, because it's going to be down a bit further because of there. Right, so let's see if I can get this right now. That should just about be in the right place. So let me mark that again. That is where I want my hole to be, right there. And I'm going to, if you've got anything sharp, a pokey tool, or if you've got one of the multi-tools, this will work fine. And there's my shape there, and I'm just going to poke through here to make my hole. And now you need a brad, and I've bought some of the brads that go with the, that come with the set. They've got some square and some circle, round and square brads. Whoops. And you've got white and black ones. I've used the circular ones, but they both, either of them will work. And I've used the white ones for these. It doesn't really, you can, I could use the square ones, they won't show when I put them together. So this one is going to hold my circle onto the background paper there, like that. So I just need to flatten down the backs, so that will now go around. I'm going to just take out the lines I drew, just to make sure they don't show up on the finished card, because they don't need to. That's a little bit of glue. Just use my, this takes off any glue that you might have. There we go. So there we go. So that's now done. So we can now attach the backing paper, whoops, onto our card. Oh, and everything's going to have a landslide. I shouldn't put everything like this. Right, so I need the other ones in a moment. And all my rows of paper falling out. Sorry about this. Right, let's attach this. So again, I could use my wet glue, or I can use my stamp and seal seal to do this. So I'm going to use my stamp and seal because it's quicker, especially using this one. Now I don't want to put any on the actual brad. It shouldn't make any difference, but just in case. So I'm making sure I've only got a very small gap around the outside. So that's now stuck down. Now for this one, as I said, you need to make sure when you put the dimensionals on the back, just to lift it up a little bit, that you don't put anything anywhere near the circle. But you do want to make sure that it's got enough room to move around. So I'm using some of my larger dimensionals for this, and I'm going to put them on the corners. Now, if you sort of see over the top, I can put another one up here in the middle, and I can put one easily down the bottom. It's not going to be there, and if I'm careful I can put one either side here, but I do need to be careful. What we could do is, if you cut them in half, you could use half of one, just so that there is something there. Oops, if I can get it off. So I can put half of one there and half of one here, and do the same thing. Put half of one here and the other half over here. So it gives some support, but it doesn't actually interfere with the mechanics. I might have to move that, I'll see. Right, let's have a look. Will they make... Yeah, that will. I might have to move these. This one especially. Oops. Just take that off. And move this one up here. I think that one should be alright now. There we go. I think that'll be alright. So just take the backs off these. We're nearly there. Put this. I want a bit more. Whoops. Don't you dare. So that I've got, there we go. Right, I'm not going to push it down too much yet, just make sure she does go around. Yeah, there we go. Right, so as I said, it's not an exact science. I didn't do her lips. Let's use this one on her lips. On the card. There we go. There we are. If you could do her cheeks as well, but I haven't done that one for this card. So this now works. Will work. There we go. You need to have a little bit of a gap, if you can, between the top card and her, and the circle that's underneath, only because it makes it easier. Especially if you've stuck other pieces on, if you've paper pieced. Okay, so this one, I'm a bit upset about that, but never mind. We've only got one that looks a bit strange. If I wasn't doing it on a video, I'd probably do it again and cut another circle out. But as it is, I think she looks okay. She just about lines up. Again, it's easier if you've got the photopolymer stamps to do this with. Like I said, this one you can just about see that this line is missing there, the little bit there. So that's all I would do, is use my pen just to make sure that all the lines match up. Again, this one, she hasn't got a skirt, but I'm not going to put that in. It was just that she was a little bit too low. But that's, I would have done that one again. I think, there we go. But the rest of them all line up nicely. Okay, so that's that one. Let's just do put the sentiment on top. There it is. So I'm going to put that one on there, and I'm not going to put more dimensionals on. You can if you want to, but in the UK, if you make it too thick, you have to pay extra. So rather than do that, we won't. I'll just put it on flat there, and I'm just going to draw my arrow. Again, I could have used a piece of black card. I'm going to make this nice and thick so that it shows up, to show that you need to do this. There we are. Okay, so that's there, and then on the inside I might put, I'm not sure quite what happened just now, but when I was stamping the inside of the card, my film just cut out. So all I did, I stamped the sentiment inside and a little dog that was from the stamp set on the envelope and on the inside of the card as well. So this is the card I've just made now, and here's the one, my original card. So it's not that much different, but somehow I managed to get them a bit better lined up the first time, but obviously can't do anything about that now. It does make it easier, like I said, with this one that I made. It was a lot easier because they're photopolymer stamps, so you can see through and you can see exactly where you're stamping them. But I prefer this one, I think. Anyway, and this one was made with a square card, so when I was making this up, I used the metal outline part, which I have temporarily, here we go, put there. I marked this so that it would be where I wanted it to be. Obviously it couldn't be central, which would have been there, probably ish. It had to be over a bit, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to turn the circle round, and it needed to be able to have a bit so that I could turn the circle around. And I also cut out a bigger chunk of the side there so that I could push it across a little bit further. But you couldn't have it too much further than that, because otherwise your circle would be too far and you'd have a huge piece cut out. Okay, and with this one I also added an extra layer behind, because I didn't think about adding the circle onto the backing paper instead of the another piece. So I used an extra layer that you don't actually need for this one. So that's what I used this one for, is to actually, I couldn't have used it to cut the piece out anyway, but I used it to mark where the notch was going to go. Okay, so that's what I did with that. And I also used the clouds to cut these pieces out, but everything else is just stamped on. And then I used the blender brushes I used a rough piece that I'd ripped, and then I made the hills out of them. I don't think this for this card, but that's how I did that. I just cut a piece of post-it note, ripped it, and then I used it to make one side to do the hills and the other side to do the sky. So the opposite side was to do the sky with. Okay, so that's how I did those, and then just moved them around a little bit to make different grades of colours, graduations of colours. I also did colour the circle in around the animals. Again, that would be easier to do with a finger dauber, but I have got I bought a set of small blending brushes, and I used the smaller one to do the green with on that one. Okay, so that I didn't actually go over the animals themselves. And I just because they've all got different types of hooves, I just used one of them to make the hooves for the, I stamped the image through the aperture onto the background just so that I've got the hooves showing there. Okay, and with the wall there are little, I'm having a little bit of a problem with my phone, it keeps cutting out. So as I said, there are little indentations left out on the wall. I just use my marker pen just to cover them over. If you like the cards, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to my channel, you can do so, and if you click on the little bell icon, you'll be notified when I post a new video. If you've got any questions or comments, you can leave them below, or you can email me at triciascardsandcrafts@yahoo.com. And I've got an Instagram page and a Facebook page, Tricia's Cards and Crafts. And if you want to buy any of the items that you've seen me use today, apart from the Hey Girlfriend, because it's out of print, it's not available anymore, then you can find them on my online shop, which is triciascardsandcraft.stampinup.net. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope it hasn't been too much to take in. As I said, I will try and do a blog, and my blog I will list below if I can in the comments as well, so that you can find the blog as well. So once I've managed to type it all up, and I may show a different card again on that one if I make another one. Okay, thanks for very much for joining me. Hope you've found this useful, and maybe you'll make your own cards, maybe the animal one or the Hey Girlfriend ones with your own versions. And thanks for all your comments from Facebook, those that made comments and have enjoyed my post, and hopefully you will enjoy the video and you'll find it useful. Again, if you've got any questions, just ask below or email me. Okay, and I'll do my best to help. Thank you very much. Bye.